For me, New Earth is one of the first stumbling blocks we come to in the new era, and unfortunately it comes right at the start of the second series. It's not always an episode I look back on with fondness, and it's no doubt after rewatching it recently. But here goes. Nevertheless, the opening scene with the still visible bad wolf sign and Rose's telling response of bye to Mickey's I love you sets the scene rather nicely, and the Doctor and Rose's joy in each other's company is beautifully judged. It's easy for that kind of stuff to be a bit squirmy, it often was with the Ninth Doctor and Rose, but here it seems totally natural, that is until literally one scene later. Right.
I've got everything, don't worry. Be careful. And you'll have to call Mo about that. Oh, never mind, Mo. Okay, I'm going now. I love you. Love you. Love you. I love you.
Love you.
Bye. So where are we going?
Further than we've ever gone before.
Right. Since when do people happy get so annoying? There has been a shift in the dynamic between Rose and the Doctor since Tennant took over, and it is now less of a marriage of equals and more of a stressing how deliriously happy they are travelling together. People who are happy together don't have to constantly drive home the fact. That's what insecure people do when they think they are happy. I really wanted someone to pass with a sick bucket during the scene where they are lounging on the grass talking about their first date. It's so cloying I think the blood started to actually clot. Davies is capable of much subtler characterisation than this, and it feels like he is praising his own success a little bit too much. Cassandra calls Rose a dirty blonde assassin, which isn't exactly true. She has nothing to do with her murder at all, but it's very funny nonetheless. Cassandra inhibiting Rose's body allows Billie Piper to drop all the gooey stuff and have some fun as a seriously bitchy tramp, and strangely enough she is more appealing in that role. New Earth does set the scene for some overdone moments of happiness between the Doctor and Rose in Series 2, but as has been pointed out elsewhere, Davies was setting up their downfall in Doomsday from afar and trying to make sure that the finale really hurts. We might have to experience the smuggest Doctor-companion pairing to date to get there, but the payoff sure is devastating. As for the Doctor's companion, New Earth stands as a terrific episode for Billie Piper and a rather disappointing episode for Rose. Piper reportedly requested she was given more comedic material after taking on so much serious character drama in the first season. She clearly has a bast imitating Zoe Wanamaker's take on Lady Cassandra, and there's a fearlessness to Piper's performance that suggests just how much she's grown as an actress over the course of the series. The only downfall to the body swapping is that it means Rose herself is effectively removed from the episode at a great length of time, at which Doctor Who still needs to re-establish her relationship with the new Doctor. After all, Rose gets her big showcase in The Christmas Invasion, and then the rejuvenated Doctor gets to do his sword fighting, but the two interacted only briefly over the course of the special. It's possible to see the logic of putting Cassandra in Rose's body. It shifts the spotlight solely onto Tennant's Doctor, it allows a memorable villain to return, well I say memorable, while keeping the expensive CGI shots to an absolute minimum, and it gives Piper the chance to show off her acting range. But the Doctor and Rose are starting over, and it would be nice to get a bit more of a sense how the new dynamic is actually going to work. Although for much of this episode Cassandra was as superficial as it gets, her life ended on a surprisingly poignant note. Did her possessing a clone somehow help her to sympathise with them? Is that how she feels inside too, alone, like she's never been touched? Taking her back to a happy moment in her life to die was a nice touch from the Doctor, a sad but fitting end to a tragic character. If indeed this is the end, which I mean it is at this stage, I thought her exploding last season was the end too. I mean, you just never know. I'd argue this is the weakest episode we received to date. I think RTD was trying to pack way too much into one singular episode for it to fully meet all the given expectations. Although I like to say I enjoyed Cassandra in The End of the World, I cannot fully reciprocate the same sentiment here unfortunately. And don't get me wrong, the occasional silly Doctor Who episode can be fun, but this took the bracket way too far. And I mean way too far for comfort. It's a shame this was Tennant's full-length debut because I actually do think he gives a good performance, Not on face value, but the script does somewhat let him down at points. The return of the face of Bo, however, is great and really sets up the revelation about him to come in the not so distant future, effectively. Also, I'm not entirely sure how you pass on a cure, and for me this is a very cop-out ending. Was it because those who had entered the elevator were still wet from the medicine and simply transferred it to others via physical contact? Or was it something to do with the doctor saying, I know a bit about medicine myself? Did he do something to the formula to make it more effective? There's too many questions pondered and not enough answered. It's easy to show something, but not explaining it is just not sufficient. So, how and why does this episode fall apart? First of all, it's one thing to raise a big complex question, and another to actually properly grapple with it. There aren't any obvious answers here. The sisters are doing a great deal of good with the result of their experimentation, and the sisters' conversation about sentient transfer makes it clear that the sisters don't think their subjects are actually sentient. Modern day humans tend to go along with the idea that using non-sentient creatures for medical experimentation is a lesser evil than failing to stop disease, and that's why animal experimentation is widespread. None of us actually like the idea, but on the other hand, none of us like the idea of people we love dying from otherwise curable diseases, either. The situation on New Earth is pretty much the same. The subjects are a lot more human, but the cures are a lot more spectacular. Is it okay to use thousands of force-grown humans if it cures all diseases? What if it was just dozens, or just one? And if that's not okay, why is it much more okay to do it to animals? And what about the billions who will die otherwise? Interesting. Hell, I don't know. Neither do you, probably. And that's the point. It's an interesting question because it's a tough question. So what does Russell T Davies do with it? He feeds us a doctor's opinion as the only answer, and that's that. It's just wrong, he says. Oh, okay then. The end of the story, with the sisters being led away by the fuzz, is clearly supposed to be another example of the doctor putting everything right, but nobody stops to consider the people who are actually going to die as a result of this. They've totally bottled it. And how does RTD show us this theme in action? He makes the guinea pigs into zombies. They're so blatantly George A. Romero that it's an obvious homage. As far as we're concerned, homage is another word for too lazy or creatively bankrupt to think of any new ideas. Why would we want to see something we've seen again and again to the point of cliché before? And it's not just Romero, it's mining either. We had the same zombie theme and the same idea of disease and cure being spread by touch in The Empty Child. It's just so boring and clearly been done before. With a new slave race being exploited, the villain doing a very bad impression of the companion, a new doctor making his debut and genuinely making a tit out of himself, and a scene with a character screaming "Let me out" from inside a plastic cubicle, it is heartbreaking to see Davies paying tribute to another classic tale, Time and the Rani. Considering the effects work, the makeup and the amount of extras on display, it is an oddly cheap looking episode that dodges the dramatic bullet at every turn it takes, when what was needed was a sizzling reinstatement of the best of the first series. As a comedy it fails because it isn't very funny, with some arc and embarrassing performances from the leads, and as a tragedy it bombs because there is simply no time to give any substance to the situation. It's agonisingly sentimental in places. I mean, I always take the sick bucket for the first scenes with the Doctor and Rose, for example, in a way the Doctor has never dared to be before, and it swaps mature storytelling for a childish tone and overly simplistic solutions. Contradictory to this, the last scene manages to be one of the best moments in the entire Davies era for its stark emotion, and you have to wonder what this could have been like had the whole piece been written this powerfully. There's a much stronger story to be told that ejects all the body-swapping frivolities and focuses more on the dark underbelly of the Sisterhood's operation and its effect on New York. It's a shame because there is a lot of good ideas here, but just not executed perfectly. Overall, I give this episode a 5 out of 10, a very weak opener to Series 2 and not an episode I return to, and for good reason. I mean, I like cats, but this episode doesn't half take